So I know a lot of people are trying to make sense of Trump's visit to the UK and the state visit that is being accorded to President Trump in the UK. Now, traditionally, it's not uncommon. UK, it's an American ally, and not just only American ally, but the closest and closest ally. And it actually took longer. I think there's some kind of delays in terms of the state visit. Usually every American president, after being sworn into office, usually make the first trip. And the king's visit is usually followed after that. So it's not totally uncommon. But the question now is, what makes these time a little bit different? It's because of, I know a lot of people in a lot of countries, they see President Trump as a polarized leader whose ideas and the way he sees the world, especially with trade and the American first policy that Trump has. But the visit is not uncommon. It's traditionally what every American president enjoy with British because of the closeness of both countries. Now let's go to what makes it a little bit different, and why a lot of people are seeing it from a different standpoint. One is that aside from trade-related issues, which the visit allows the king to have a direct conversation with the U.S. president about the relationship and the importance of the U.S. Ally and British ally. Aside from that, secondly, it's a raising concern of the war between Russia and Ukraine that is more longer than predicted as of now, and the risk that Europe can get drawn into a regional war. That's another thing. Then thirdly, it's the rise of a new superpower and the decline of the American-led world order. That is thirdly. And why is it so glamorous the way it is to send a message. Remember, last month, China had its independence and formally offered itself to be the new leader and the change of world orders and how things have been moving recently. And that is to send a message to China that British still stands side by side and with the United States and the current world order. That is the message that's been sent. And number two is that not only the challenge of the current world order, the challenge of the current financial system, which if you also notice, you will know that there is a new movement, and the new movement is a way of setting a new financial system, which is obviously, of course, pioneered by China, Russia, and Iran, and a couple of countries involved in that, and in South Africa. And gradually, it's getting more attention than it was before. So those are the things that is very important to consider. And when you look at even the current policy of the United States, which is pretty aggressive in terms of immigration, and not just the way it was done before, but pretty much a front aggressive immigration policy and financial policy. And if you look at why is all of that, is because American system is actually trying to redo itself. And every world leaders and countries are looking at this shifting in those dynamic. You know, it's just like what the president of Finland talked about in Bloomberg 2 days ago, and he made a comment. He made a comment on Bloomberg that for the reason why he had to because he actually lost, the current president actually lost his election before, and the reason why he had to get back into rerunning for election, and luckily he got elected, was because of the war in Ukraine with Russia. And that was why he decided to run again for election, and luckily he won this time. And secondly, with the landscape of the current world order, and he made it very clear that it looks shaky, that when we look at today and the world that we live in today, it looks like back in the 70s and in the 60s, or after the World War II. So, and that is something that is troublesome and is worrisome in the European continent. So, if every leaders in the European continent are worried about the current world order and they are certain that something is really going to go wrong, so the state visit is extremely necessary. I had the discussion before whereby I think it was with another guy, and we were discussing geopolitics, and he mentioned something, and he mentioned something which I don't want to go too depth in this video, but I told him something. I said, if America stopped existing as a world order, that is because of Europe. If Europe decides to stand alone, and if Europe decides to join China, then the current world order is done, because America cannot be the leader of the world without Europe. It's that simple. And China cannot be the leader of the world without Europe, without Africa, without Asia, and without the continent of America. Countries usually endorses a country to be able to lead. And the state visit is to send a message back to that same statement that Xi Jinping made, that China is ready. But they are trying to send a message back that no, it's not going to happen. And fast forward, American is dealing with a massive debt, and how the debt is going to be paid. And if you look at the financial system today and the decline of the reserve currency, a dollar as the reserve currency in the world, compared to, I think, as of right now, it's heading between 50% of reserve currency. So when you look at all of that, or I think 50 or 60, and with BRICS gaining more attractions and all of that, there is a possibility that anything can happen. And the world today that we live, ironically, even though I wasn't here during the World War II, but ironically, the world that we live today based on history simply looks like we are heading backward to that period. And ask yourself a simple question. The war in Ukraine and Russia, for me, I feel it's a war that is deliberate and is just forced to keep going when it doesn't make any sense. And all of that is to bring that expectation of a declining world order, destabilization. And you go to the Middle East and you look at what is happening between Israel and Gaza and Hamas. It's a senseless thing that's going on there. an entire generation of people, an existence of future of kids and family have been wiped out. But yet there's still a group of people that still cannot say, okay, enough is enough, and let's get rid of this thing and stop it from now. Which is, why do they still have to hold the hostage? It's all senseless. And if you look at what is gradually happening in Asia, it's also pointing a finger that we're heading into a destabilized or a time of a chaos or a chaotic time where there's going to be a lot of wars in different continents. And you look at the financial system. And why do you think right now Bitcoin is having a new set of attraction aside from President Trump, who has greatly endorsed Bitcoin and as a result of his presidency, and Bitcoin is taking a lot of attractions, and a lot of people are moving their currency into Bitcoin. Why is it that? For securities. Security in a sense that if there is a war tomorrow or at any time, the banking sectors will be affected. Our way of life will be affected. But when you have your money secured in assets like Bitcoin, there's some guarantee that no matter what happens, you can easily move them around. And governments are equally joining this wagon of Bitcoin and storing money in Bitcoin and gold as well. So we're heading into a period of a great amount of uncertainty in the world. And until there's a level of calm, until there's a level of understanding, and I'm not pretty sure if there will be, because the way we are going, the way the world is going right now after the pandemic, does not look like anything is going to slow down anytime. So whether after Trump's presidencies and when Trump is no longer president, does it mean that things will automatically go back the way they were? For example, trade. The world cannot decouple the way it was originally thought it's possible during the pandemic. But shifting of manufacturing and independence of markets are beginning to form within countries and governments, trying to find their own different ways. So the new world order that is being dreamed and discussed, we don't know yet. And honestly, the only thing I could say, if British or if Europe pulls the plug on America and they decide to join China, then the current world order is done. And the only way it's going to be done, everything is going to come with a fight. It's usually going to be decided by wars. But I hope that does not happen. But traditionally, America needs Europe. And Europe needs America for its defense. So basically, that's what it is. I'll see you in my next video. If you like what it is, you can go ahead and like it. And, all right, drop me a comment. Thanks.